Good morning and a beautiful Sunday morning to everyone out there who's listening. It's cold here in New Jersey today, so I'm standing in the middle of my virtual forest and enjoying the peace and beauty of the snow. As I said in my first video, this channel is called Writer, Poet, Philosopher Don, and I'm going to talk about things that are important to me because I am getting older and I feel like I have accumulated a lot of wisdom. So far, I have concentrated on philosophical and sociological topics, but today I would like to turn my attention to poetry, and for a very specific reason. For me, Joe Biden's inauguration on Wednesday allowed me to breathe a huge sigh of relief. It felt like centuries in coming. I watched him take the oath of office, and I felt like he would take that oath seriously, unlike his predecessor. Then I listened to his speech, which focused on unity, which is something we all need now and forever. When he was done, I pumped my fist in the air and let out a huge woohoo! But then I was pleasantly surprised to see them introduce a young woman who was going to read a poem. And for the next 6 or 7 minutes, I was riveted. I felt true joy rise in my heart as Amanda Gorman gave the performance of her young lifetime. By the time she was done, I was practically jumping up and down. And all I could think of to myself was, wow, that girl nailed it. I went right onto Facebook and posted something voicing my approval. Later on that day, I could see that my feelings were confirmed by the reception she got in the media. She was being praised and interviewed, and her face was literally like everywhere. I heard the story told of her staying up all night to finish the poem after the Capitol riots because she was so deeply affected. I was impressed. For me, she is like poetry's Naomi Osaka, a brave young woman who spoke her mind and acted with such style and grace when the eyes of millions were upon her. Then I went back on Facebook later on and saw some of the same type of praise, but I was also surprised to see some condemnation. This was on the page called the Facebook Poetry Society. Last weekend, someone had posted on that same page and asked, what is poetry? I had responded by saying that poetry is the ability to absorb what is beautiful in life, channel it through your heart and soul, and then let it flow through you onto the page. And I thought Amanda Gorman did an awesome job of doing just that. But now I saw people posting on the Facebook Poetry Society page saying her poem was full of cliches and platitudes. So I did some serious thinking about that. And it didn't take me long to realize that cliches and platitudes are omnipresent in poetry and in music. The first line of Stairway to Heaven, for instance, widely considered to be the greatest rock and roll song ever written. The first line says, there's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold. Now, of course, the cliche is all that glitters is not gold, but they took one word out to give it an ironic twist. But that's still, to me, the use of a cliche. And what about Robert Frost's poem, which says, I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Oh my God, he uses the same line twice. That's terrible. Does that make that a terrible poem? Of course not. And what about Bob Dylan, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature, singing, how many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? If someone was to use that line in a song today because he's influenced or he wants to give tribute to Bob Dylan, would you call that a cliche or a platitude? I know I wouldn't. The bottom line is these were overly critical people who are jealous as hell. They saw a beautiful young Black woman take the stage and wow a nation in 6 minutes, and they can't stand it. So they have to tear her down just to justify their own feelings of inadequacy. I leave them to their own personal hell. As for me, I say, way to go, Amanda Gorman. You did a hell of a job. There's a cliche for you. Ask the younger George Bush about that one. The poem, which I'm going to read now, I am calling Style and Grace, and is dedicated to Amanda Gorman. And I hope she never loses that sense of majesty which she displayed on Inauguration Day. She stood in the cold with the sun in her face, a sharp thorn in the side to all those who consider race before character and content. We all knew what she meant, and her delivery was infused with such style and grace as to inspire the heart to reach for new heights of freedom and inclusion. I immediately felt a sense of elation. My first thought was of divine inspiration. A better effort could not be made. Later on, I saw the praise and felt a sense of validation. Then I saw the hate with their accusations of cliches and platitudes. And my first thought was, what a terrible attitude. Amanda Gorman was great. Then I read the comments again, and I realized these men weren't listening. They saw a young Black woman being far, and their own jealousy over their perpetual mediocrity just ruined their day. Then I laughed and I thought, wow, I'm glad I don't live that way. She did really well, and her future is bright. And the light she was talking about lives inside me. Peace, happiness, and prosperity to all. Thank you, and have a great day.